You're going to write this on the note sheet now. So example number 1, we have the height times the width, which is unknown at this time, equals 8c plus 10, which Amaya told us is the area. So what we did, we took the first area of the first section of the rectangle and placed it down at the bottom because that's where we put our area. We took the second area for the second section of the rectangle and put it down. So now we have to find the missing information, which is the width. So if I know the height, I can go ahead and plug that number in to my first section. So I'm going to plug in my height times width, which we don't know, to get the area. So if the height of this first rectangle is 2, what's the height of my second rectangle going to be? 2. But we don't know the width, do we? So this is where we get our new information. So we have to think to ourselves, 2 times what will get me to 8c? So 2 times, Nico? 4c. Good. So if I take 2 and I multiply it by 4c, I'll get the area of 8c. So what's the width of my first rectangle? 4c. So I'm going to bring that information up. So I found the width of my first rectangle. Now I need to find the width of my second rectangle. So again, I know the height. I know the area. I know height times width will get me to the area. So I need to find what the missing width is. So I have to think to myself, 2 times what will get me to 10?
5.
Not 6.
5.
5. So 2 times 5 will get me to the 10. So what is the width of my second rectangle?
5.
5. Okay. So now we have all the information for our area model. We have the heights, we have the widths, we have the areas. So then I need to plug in my information that I found, the widths, up into the blanks. So the height times the width. So what's the first width I plug in? So my first width is 4c. My second width is 5. You don't have to draw the arrows. I'm just drawing them to show where my numbers came from. So doing it that way isn't too hard. But as you guys know, we start off with something basic and we build upon it. So the front side's not going to be too bad, but when we flip it over, we're going to have to do a little bit of guesswork. Okay? So that's why it's, when we get to the guesswork, that's why it's going to be important. You know every part of the area model, how to label it. Okay? So make sure you have all of your work down good. So let's look at example number 2. Example number 2 is just going to be like example number 1. What do the numbers without the parentheses represent? The area. The numbers that go in the blanks here is going to represent my, and then the number on the outside here is my. So go ahead, plug the numbers in. Oh, sorry. Plug the numbers in where you know they go. So if I know 5 is my height, I'm going to put it out to the left of my rectangle. Okay. You guys said the numbers to the right, the 15D plus 35 are my areas. So I'm going to put my areas at the bottom of my rectangles. So I put 15D. Because the top is where you show your work for your height times your width. And then the area of my second rectangle is 35. So I need to determine what the width is. I know my height, I know the area. So again, I'm going to plug in the height for both rectangles. What's the height for both rectangles? 5. So I'm going to take 5 times some number and 5 times some number. I go ahead and I write those out at the very beginning, so it's already done for me. So this is where our guesswork comes in. 5 times what will get me to 15D? 3D. I can't just do 3 because it would just get me to 15. I need that D. So 5 times 3D will get me to 15D. So this is the what of the rectangle. What does 3D mean? It's the width of the rectangle. So I'm going to come up and I'm going to label it as my width. So not only do I put the width here, but I also come up and put it at the top of my rectangle. So now I can move to the second section. 5 times what will get me to 35? 7. So 7 is the width of my second rectangle. So where else do I need to plug that 7? Okay. Am I finished? No.
Yeah, I know they said.
Because now I need to plug in the blanks. Because think to yourself, 5 times what gets you to 7? Or 5 times what gets you to 35?
What
What if you have no clue? Like, let's say that math is not your strong point, and you don't always recall your multiplication facts very quickly. What's another way that you could quickly find what 5 times blank equals to 35?
You can keep on counting until like.
You could count by 5s. What's another option?
Divide.
Divide. Just take 35 divided by 5, and it'll give you that.
Sometimes
Or
I do the little circles.
okay, circles, or you could use your multiplication table. So there's different options for you. So now I'm ready to fill in the blanks. Well, what are the blanks? These are my blanks. What do those blanks represent?
The top numbers.
The top numbers, which are the
Width.
width. So the first width I plug in is 3D. The second width I plug in is 7. So again, quick review. The number with parentheses represents my,
Height. Width.
and these over here without parentheses is my area. Okay, you ready for the fun to begin?
Hey.
Okay, so take a look at this one. Now, we're doing the exact same thing, except for this time our area model is going to have how many heights? 2. How many widths? 2. What information do they give us, though?
They give us one missing height, and then they give us the 2 missing width. Well,
So
one
they-
missing width.
So what information do we have? They give us one height,
Yeah.
and then they give us the,
Area.
so we need to find the
Height and the area. I mean the width.
height and the
Width.
2 widths. So we know that 2e, does that represent my first height or my second height?
First height.
Okay, so let's go ahead and plug that in. So we know that 2e is going to be my first height. Now, if I know the height of this rectangle is 2, what's the height of this rectangle?
The same.
Yeah, it's the same. So I'm going to go ahead and plug that into each of my rectangles as well. So 2e times something, because we don't know the width. Thank you. And then 2, whoops, that's not what I wanted. 2e times something. So I don't know the widths. Okay? So I'm kind of at a standstill with my height and widths. But now I have these 3 numbers here. With these 3 numbers here, they're my areas. But where would I plug my areas in? This 10e squared, that's usually going to be the area for which rectangle? 1, 2, 3, or 4? 1. So the 10e squared is going to be the area of my first rectangle. So let's plug our area in. (19e). Where do we get the area from 19e usually?
No.
Yeah, when we combine like terms. When we combine like terms of what 2 shapes? 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? So we usually have to combine like terms of these 2 rectangles, correct?
Yeah.
So we can't put 19e here because we have to split it somehow. We're going to have to figure out how to do that. So we're going to leave these areas blank for right now. So then 6 is going to represent the area of my last rectangle. We don't know those areas yet. Okay. Before moving on, look closely. Can I figure anything out with what I have so far? Take a moment. What can I determine?
The top square
Okay, the top square. What can I figure out?
is gonna be 2.
But what am I finding?
Oh, the missing number.
The missing number, which would represent the width, yeah. So 2e times what gets me to 10e squared? 5e. So that is going to be the width of my first rectangle. So I'm going to go ahead and label the width 5e. Now, if 5e is the width of this rectangle, I now have more information. What else is it the width of? The rectangle down below it.
10E.
So I'm going to come down and put 5e as the width of my second rectangle. Now remember, height always goes first, then width. Remember how I said it was important that we always do height, then width? It's for this lesson. However, I still don't know the height of this rectangle, nor do I know the width of this rectangle. So I have all the information I possibly can get from where we're at here. So now, remember how we had to find factor pairs? Now we're going to find factor pairs of 6. Okay? So think to yourself, what numbers can you all multiply together to get 6?
1 and 6.
2 and 3.
Okay? So you said 1 and 6. So if it's 1 and 6, we can also then do 6 and 1. What else?
2 and 3.
2 and 3. So I'd write these off to the side.
3 and 2.
And 3 and 2. Okay. Oh, I'm going to bring that 3 and 2 up to the top here, okay? Or over to the side. Now this is where it's going to get tricky. We're going to plug these numbers in to try to find the rest of the information that we need. So my first group, now, I would not recommend plugging everything in as I'm doing right now because it's going to be a lot of erasing. So for this, for the sake of what we're doing here, you can put your pencils down and just pay attention. So the first group of numbers I'm going to plug in is what?
1
And 6. So I'm going to plug, what I'm trying to do, I'm taking two numbers that I can multiply together to get 6, but then when I plug them in here, I can add them together, the areas together, to get 19e. So if I plug in, I said I'm going to do 1 first, and, that's not the color right. So I'm going to do 1, I'm going to use pink. So I'm going to use 1 and 6. What's 2e times 1e?
2.
Okay. And then what's 6 times 5e?
30.
Now if I combine 2e plus 30e, am I going to get 19e? No. So that does not work. Okay. So what's the second set of numbers I have?
6 and 1.
Okay, so let's plug in 6 and 1. So 2e times 6,
12E
1 times 5e.
5.
Does 12e plus 5e get me the area of 19e?
No.
Nope, it's going to be 17e. That doesn't work. I truly believe if you can make it through this lesson, this is the hardest lesson you will do this triad. Okay? So now let's try our next number on our list. 2 and 3. For now, I really hope you're paying attention. Okay? So 2e times 2e,
40. That is so easy.
5e times 3.
15E.
Does that equal 19e?
No.
15e plus 4e? Yeah. So let me write it in a little bit nicer. So those are going to be the factor pairs that we're going to use. So like I said, I'm just going to write it in nicer. I'm writing it in nicer. So we're going to use, so what's the width of this rectangle going to be?
2 and 3.
So this is going to be 2. And what's the height of the bottom rectangle going to be? 3. Okay?
Okay.
So I'm just using this factor pair here to plug in. So 2e times 2, you guys told me equals 4e. Then you said 3 times 5e equals 15e. And when we combine 4e and 15e, we get 19e. So that's the area of the two rectangles combined. Now what I need you to go ahead and figure out then, what's the width of this rectangle? What did we say the width was?
2.
Okay, so I'm going to bring up my width. So if the area of this, if the width of this rectangle is 2, what's the width of the rectangle below it? 2. So does the width come first or second?
6.
Second. Okay, so now, what information am I missing here?
The
Height. So what's the height of this rectangle?
3.
3. So I'm going to plug in my 3. And then what's the height of this rectangle? So I'm going to bring the information out there. Yes.
So you know how when we're doing like this, well, like you know how when we add it or times it, you get e squared. Why would we do that? Why we don't get it?
When you multiply variables with exponents, you add the exponents together. When you add or subtract, like terms, you keep the terms the same. They don't go up or go down. Okay, now we can find my math binder and put that in front of the math binder. It should just be on my desk there, or it's located behind that red and white folder there. Make sure you put it in the front. So now, I'm ready to plug in the rest of my missing information. So, I have my first height. What's my second height I need to put in there? Well, I have my first height.
I mean 3.
3. Okay. So then, what goes here?
5,
And
2.
those are my widths.
Height.
So everything that I have, you guys should have. Although I told you not to worry about plugging in, checking your answers, I do recommend having your factor pairs off to the right. So I do recommend having your factor pairs of your 6 off to the right. That way you'll have it. Okay, so make sure you have everything that I have. Nico, I want to see your factor pairs.
I already have that.
You have them? Sorry, I didn't see it. Oh, yep, I sure did.
They going by slow.
Okay. All right. Start filling in the information that you know. So start filling in on your area rectangle models the information that you know. Don't wait for me. I want to see what you know. So is this the poem that you picked?
Yeah, I just finished this stuff because we had to.
Okay. Let me get through this, and then when I can set and actually look at it, I'll help you, okay? We have this last problem.
We don't know.
Huh? Huh?
Do it on our own. Sure.
Show me what, fill in the information that we know.
This, let me go back down here.
Uh-huh. Okay. The majority of you guys walking around are doing a good job. The first set of numbers represents our height. The second set of numbers represents our,
Width.
and then the numbers without parentheses over here represents the area of the entire shape. So, if I have 3F, that's going to be the first height of my first rectangle. So when I walked around, you all had 3F for the first height of your first rectangle. You didn't have your second height for your second rectangle because we don't know that yet. You don't have any of your widths labeled because we don't know that yet. So then our areas, where's 12F squared going to go? Where's the area of 12F squared going to go?
At the bottom.
Like top.
At the top. So 12F squared is going to be the area of our first rectangle. Okay? What's going to be the area of this rectangle?
We don't know it.
We don't know it yet. What about the area of the bottom left rectangle?
43 is.
No.
No, it's not 43F. 43F is going to be the
yeah.
combined like terms of the second and bottom rectangles. What's the area of the back right rectangle? 35, so I can plug that in. So now that we have a little bit more information, we can plug some more stuff in. So, what else can I put into my area model? Nico?
You can finish 3F, 12.
Okay, so 3F is the height of my first rectangle. So 3F times something to get 12F squared. What is it going to be?
4E.
How about 4F?
4F, my bad. I'm thinking.
So that's going to be the width. Okay.
And then the 4F will be the width.
Down. Good. Okay. What else do I know? There's one more thing that I know. One more thing that I know. Zach?
There's gonna be a 3F times something and that's it.
So I know the height of my top rectangle as well. So the bottom, we know nothing about this bottom rectangle, do we, besides the area? So the bottom, I don't know the, I don't know the height, nor do I know the width. So now I'm at my standstill. So now I have nothing else that I can label on my area model. What do I do? Zach?
Don't you basically try to figure out what 35 goes into? Or what goes into 35?
What do you mean what goes into?
Like, what time, like 7 times 5?
Yeah, what factor pairs does 35 all have? So you said you gave me one factor pair was what, 7 and 5?
Maybe that's the only thing.
So if I use 7 and 5, I can also use,
5 and 7.
okay, anything else?
No.
Uh-huh.
Any others?
Uh-huh.
I don't think there are. It doesn't say there are.
What else can you multiply together to get 35?
35 and 1.
Yeah. So I can do 1 and 35 and 35 and 1. So what I'm going to do this time, instead of writing my numbers and erasing, I like to come over here to the right and just think. So I'm going to plug in 1 here and 35 here. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take 3 times 1. What's 3 times 1? Okay. And then if I would take 4 times 35, what's 4 times 35?
140.
What'd you say?
140.
So then if I would take 3 plus 140, would I get 43 here?
No.
So that is too many. So that one doesn't work. So let's move to our next one. So I'm going to use 7 and 5. So the first time I'm going to take 3 times 7 and get what?
21.
Okay. Then I'm going to take 4 times 5 and get,
20.
okay, 21 and 20. Does that equal 43?
No.
Nope, doesn't work. So I'm going to come to my next factor pair. Okay, what am I going to multiply together first?
So 5 times 3,
3 and 5, which equals?
25.
3 and 5 is what? 3F times 5 is what?
3 times 5 is 15, I mean.
Okay, and then 4 times 7?
28.
Okay, what's 15 plus 28?
43.
So those are going to be my numbers that I'm going to use. So
What, 5?
I'm going to use 5 first. So 5 goes here. And then the 7 is my second number I'm going to plug in. So these were the winning numbers, 5 and 7. So now I'm ready to fill in the rest of my area model. So what's 3F times 5? 15F. So then what's 7 times 4F? Now, if I combine the like terms of 15F plus 28F, does it equal the area of 43F? Yes, so that's how I know my answer is right. The area model is still incomplete though because I'm still missing some numbers. Where do you want me to start? You can tell me anywhere. My bottom right? So what's the height of this rectangle, the bottom right? What's the height of this rectangle?
3.
What's the height of this rectangle?
Oh, 7.
Okay?
Sure.
And we know it's the height because it's the first number. So if the height of this rectangle is 7, the height of this rectangle is what? Okay? So then what's the width of the top
5.
or the right rectangle? It's 5. So I'm going to go ahead and label the width as 5. So I'm going to come down and label this width as 5. Okay? So what's the second height that I'm going to plug in for my blanks now?
The 7
And then my
is gonna be
width is,
4F plus 5.
and that's it.
It's kind of confusing, but it's easy.
You just really have to stop and think and remember where everything goes. As I said, I feel like today's lesson is the most difficult lesson that we'll do the remainder of the year. We have,
Really?
I think we have approximately 4 more lessons that we're going to learn, but it's not going to be any new information. It's going to be all the information that we already have. We're just going to use that information differently, okay? And I'm also going to give you a shortcut down the road so you don't have to do all this guesswork, okay?
Why can't we just get the amount?